It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Here comes Thanksgiving. And I swear I can smell the stuffing from here.
Today's show is sponsored by Osculation Rejuvenation. For when the hits the fan.
And they probably will as soon as you sit down with your liberal family members and try to have a peaceful Thanksgiving.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave. Just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. So here comes Thanksgiving, and so today's show is just a little bit different. I do have some regular news and stuff that we'll get into, but mostly not. And I tell you what I think of. Since I've been doing this program, or programs like it, for a while, a long time, a really long time. And it's getting longer all the time. But I love what I do. But when it gets to days like this, I start thinking about what Thanksgiving really does mean to me as a talk show host. And first off, I was just checking air traffic out there, and more Americans than ever before are flying to see relatives. And that happens every single year. The numbers just keep going up, which drives the cult of climate change absolutely nuts. You're not supposed to be out there flying. And you can tell them that we're not supposed to be flying. It's easy to do. When you get on the airplane, that radical environmentalist hypocrite is sitting right next to you. So go ahead, just tell them we're not supposed to be doing this according to you. They don't want to hear that. You're supposed to feel guilty. They're excused for some reason. They're excused. Their excuse is probably going to be that, well, I need to get to my family so I can tell them why this is all bad, or something like that. Okay, next, the number of Americans that are going to be driving somewhere for Thanksgiving. Maybe you are already on the road. Most people, they take a trip of a couple of hours on Thanksgiving. Some people go longer than that. But the number of people that are going to be on the road this Thanksgiving will break all sorts of records. And again, you're not supposed to be doing that. And you can tell them that when you pull up to the gas pump to refill, the liberal hypocrites standing across from you filling their gas tank. Just remind them that we're not supposed to be doing this because we're trying to save the planet and all that kind of stuff. And then taking a look at, I know it's expensive this year, and I did take a look at some of the prices. And despite what the news media tried to tell you, Thanksgiving dinner really expensive this year. Thank you, Bidenomics, for that. And yet still so many people pulled it together. And despite the best efforts of PETA, which, by the way, I mentioned yesterday, the PETA website, I went and looked at it. Their efforts this year to try to get you to not have a Thanksgiving dinner were absolutely pathetic. But it makes sense. We were in a presidential election year. So many people were focused on the election. Who the hell's listening to PETA anyway? We don't normally listen to them, except to make fun of them. But when it gets to an election year, they might as well just forget it. No one's paying attention to them. So here comes the ham, here comes the turkey, and all the other dead things that we'll go ahead and eat. And how many people do you think are actually having bugs on their menu this year? Yeah, I don't know. Do you know of any? Okay. If you want to make a big plate of bugs and serve that up, then you go right ahead. We won't be doing that. We're having turkey. And by the way, celebrating Thanksgiving is not at all in any way racist or misogynistic or patriarchal or anything like that. So you just go have a good time. What I like about a week like this, because first off, for most people, it is a very short work week. So you enjoy that. For most people, you get the days off. God bless those people who have to work Thanksgiving, but especially Black Friday. That's a difficult time. But and engage in capitalism. That's part of what we do, engaging in capitalism during this time. So it's what people do, and it's perfectly normal to do that, despite the best efforts to scare you about the food you eat, to try to tell you that you're supposed to feel guilty because of this holiday. Americans love this holiday, despite the best efforts of those who want to make everything miserable in our lives. With no resolution, by the way, for this misery, Americans still gather together every year at this time, and we have our big meal together. Despite the best efforts of those on the left especially, now when you get there, make sure to sit down with the following talking points for your family members. How about just sitting and enjoy a good Thanksgiving dinner, enjoy the company of your family, even if they voted for Trump? I know, right? Just go ahead and enjoy your family this Thanksgiving. It's okay to do that. And let's not forget what really happened on the first Thanksgiving. It had nothing to do with they're stealing the tribal lands. It has nothing to do with that at all. Because the pilgrims that were there were also friends with the Indians, and they got together for a feast. Now, if you want to know what the real meaning of Thanksgiving is, as always requested, I will play Rush Limbaugh's The True Meaning of Thanksgiving a little bit later on this morning. Now, in some years, I have talked about it myself. In other years, I let Rush Limbaugh say it, and God bless the man. I really do miss him, but I'll go ahead and play one of the best renditions that he ever did. When he went back and looked at the true origins of Thanksgiving and the true meaning of it and why we celebrate, what actually happened to the pilgrims as they tried to settle the land, and what actually happened to cause a feast that year that led to what we enjoy every single year at this time here in America. Despite the best efforts of some people to make our lives miserable. So crawl into your car, load the family up, go and enjoy other family and friends, and have yourself a good time doing it. Stuff yourself, fall asleep, wake up and stuff yourself some more, and fall asleep again. That's part of the fun of it all. That's part of also just enjoying being with family. Enjoy your plane ride. A lot of people actually do enjoy. I love flying. I mean, even if I'm crammed in on an airplane, love flying cross country. And you go ahead and enjoy that because you're allowed to do it. We are Americans, and it is okay to do this. Now, there's a lot of illegals in this country this year that are looking at us, wondering, what the hell is this holiday? Well, this is the holiday that we celebrate kicking you out. But that's a whole nother subject. Jim and Casper, bugs on the menu. I guess that depends on which restaurant you eat at. Roaches, anyone? Jim, we could probably name a few restaurants in town that have been serving us bugs, whether we know it or not.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change.
Hold on. Sorry about that, everybody. I hit completely the wrong button. I meant this one. But it's Thanksgiving after all.
There are two types of families on Thanksgiving Day. The ones who start drinking at 8 a.m. and the ones who run a 5K. And if you ran that turkey trot, chances are 100% that you posted your pics on Instagram and made the rest of us feel like total.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
6:22 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So, what we have today is a day to go ahead and enjoy not just being an American and celebrating Thanksgiving, but we also have a day where you can enjoy being a capitalist and a user of organic fuels like coal, gas, and oil. Because as I said, in order to get places to enjoy Thanksgiving, people will be traveling, sometimes long distances, air travel, car travel, but then you get there. And part of what's on the menu is dead animals. That's certainly a good thing. And then we cook all of that, and we cook that using electricity that came from natural gas and coal power plants. And we also cook it on things like natural gas itself. Some people like to use oils. It depends on whether, I'm not talking like petroleum oil, but still you're using oils to go ahead and cook, but still you have to put electricity in there. And there's some people who even like to, I've seen this happen, people have go ahead and taken the turkey and smoked it, which means you got to go ahead and light up the grill or the smoker or something like that, So those are all good things to do to put more CO2 into the atmosphere. Am I going too far with this? And being a capitalist, you get to enjoy not just all that you bought for Thanksgiving, but then Black Friday. You go out and do very capitalist things like you go shopping, like a zombie horde. You go shopping out there, like a bunch of maniacs. You go out there and beat each other up for all sorts of stuff that you really don't need, spending money that you really didn't have because you're a capitalist and you're enjoying yourself. And isn't that what, holidays like Thanksgiving are all about?
Mommy, why is Thanksgiving your favorite holiday?
Oh, because Thanksgiving is when America comes together to show what the American spirit is all about. All across the nation, people kill animals and eat them, waving giant middle fingers at PETA.
So I don't understand. I mean, what is
See, real Americans don't like to be told what to do by a bunch of tofu-eating hippies.
Yeah, but
So we take a goose or a pig or a big bird like this turkey, and we stuff it full of stuffing like this. Then we shove it in a hot oven like so.
But Mom, I mean, shouldn't you have killed the bird dead before you did all that?
Oh, honey. Your father and I like our meat fresh.
This special Thanksgiving holiday message was designed specifically to hack off the condescending long-haired tofu-eating hippies that try to make us meat-eaters feel guilty this time of year. We hope that you enjoy the organic cardboard that you're eating this holiday. In the meantime, we're cooking our fresh kill on coal.
Now, if you're just damn determined that you're going to go have a vegan Thanksgiving, and I can't imagine anyone listening to this program is determined to do that, but just in case you are.
On today's special holiday episode of Raw Vegan Cooking, I'll be showing you how to prepare a raw vegan holiday turkey so you can enjoy your holiday meal just like normal people while still being better than them. Our turkey prep involves assembling our turkey out of mouth-watering raw vegan ingredients. If nature didn't screw up by making turkeys out of turkey meat, it would have wisely made turkeys out of tofu. It's a hormone-disrupting delight that embodies the word plain in exquisite detail. So we'll pick up the slack and improve on Mother Nature's stupid ways by using tofu to incarnate our turkey into this world. For the neck, we'll use a carrot. They're always effective cervical substitutes. We'll use a tomato as a substitute for the turkey head, and we'll use the inside of the tomato as a substitute for the brain. For the beak, we'll use the ace up the plant kingdom's anti-inflammatory sleeve, ginger, sliced. Turkey legs are everyone's favorite, but because tofu doesn't have legs, we'll substitute in broccoli drumsticks. Wooden skewers make excellent hip socket substitutes. We'll use kale for wings, just like normal turkeys will have once they evolve out of the filthy animal kingdom into the plant kingdom. #vegan. And an assortment of rosemary and dill picked fresh from my garden will make excellent feathers. Now we have our turkey.
There. Now, see, my point to all of this is you're just going to go enjoy your Thanksgiving, have a great time with family, enjoy all of that food, and then go ahead and spend money that you don't have on things that you don't need on Black Friday and the weekend beyond, because you're an American, and America has certainly earned the right, honestly, to do things like this, and you're allowed to enjoy yourself. So for all those people who are determined to be miserable on days like this, they can have their misery if that's what they want to do. As for the rest of us, even Bunny in Cheyenne is saying aloha, howdy, and have a delightful Thanksgiving. And that's what I hope the rest of you have, too. Because I'm certainly going to enjoy it. I'm heading down to Cheyenne to be with a whole bunch of friends on that day. And when I'm not doing that in past Thanksgiving, Jim, you know this, at my house, it's basically a bachelor pad with a whole bunch of food piled up that there's no way we can possibly eat all of that. And that's how we spend the morning and the afternoon, just enjoying our Thanksgiving day, which is perfectly okay to do. So here's hoping that you have a great Thanksgiving and you don't have some annoying jerk who lost an election who's determined to make it miserable for you. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. I will get into one actual news story next. Weather forecast, including a travel weather forecast, is coming your way. Especially at 6:45, we have an extended weather forecast from Don Day for that. So stay with us. This is Wake Up Wyoming.
Polish off that tin hat. You'll need it for this one. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Available on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Real quick before I get to the actual first news story of the day, just came across this on social media, on Instagram. I really like this. It says, the neighbors called police to report children skating on the road. Now, not really skating, they're sledding. What it is, it's a neighborhood with a very long, steep roadway running through the neighborhood, and it goes downhill. And the road is filled with snow and ice. And so the kids, standing at the top of the hill, looking down the roadway, thought, what a great idea. There's nobody driving. It's too slick out there. So they got out their sleds and started sledding all the way down the road. So some neighbor, probably a Karen, called the police. Well, the police showed up and thought it was a great idea and grabbed some sleds and joined the kids. Now, that's the America that I know and love. That's the way it should be. Don't go after the parents. Don't take the parents in for child endanger. Well, the parents weren't around. I mean, what if one of the kids got hurt? Well, that's why the police officers are joining them. Don't worry about it. All right. On the other hand, there's stories like this. In Wisconsin, a 10-year-old called 911 because math is hard. Now, first off, I understand it's a 10-year-old. I've had a conversation a few times with adults. Well, I called 911 for what? 911 is the emergency number. Like one guy, someone stole his bike, an adult. Somebody stole his bike. I called 911. No. You call 911 if you're having a heart attack or somebody else is having a heart attack or you're under attack right now. It's an emergency right now. The house is on fire right now. Call 911. But if someone stole your bike and you just found out about it, that's not an emergency. So you just dial the regular number for the regular police department. Okay. Oh, look, there's a YouTube video for this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give it a try to see what I get out of it. No, they're not going to play the audio with this. They have some music for it. Okay. Here's what the call was. Hey, it's really not an emergency. This kid calls 911. You're supposed to call 411. That's information. But all right. I just need help with one math problem with my homework. It's like 8th grade level. I'm sorry to waste your time, said the kid. Dividing a number by 10 is the same as finding 1/10 of the number. Use the phrase 1/10 or the phrase 10 times to complete each statement about 1,000. The kid was completely confused. So the 911 operator decided, well, what the hell? And look, if a real emergency calls in, she'll let the kid go. But she said, this isn't something we normally do, but he wasn't, the operator wasn't busy at the time. And so why not? So, the woman said, I have a kid at home the same age. So she went ahead and helped them with the math problem. Now, it's a good thing that woman was there as the 911 operator. Because if I was the 911 operator, I don't math very well. There's some things I do very well. I wish I could say I was extraordinarily good in math because I want to be, but my brain just doesn't work that way. So I would have to tell the kid, I'm sorry, but you're about to die. You've called 911, so obviously it's a life-threatening emergency, but I can't help you, so this is probably going to be the end of your life. But instead, he got a mom on the phone who actually thought, I got a 10-year-old at home. And she talked him through it. Now, again, this is the America that I know and love. Red is in Casper. Morning, Red. He said, we should sled and skate on the roads all the time. We used to sled and skate on the roads all the time as kids. I never did. No, you got to think about where I grew up, Red. I'm an island boy from a tropical area. We didn't have snow. In fact, the garbage trucks on my island had written on the back of the garbage truck, free, and these were city garbage trucks, even though Sanibel Island was not really much of a city, small population, but still. It was run by the government, okay? They wrote on the back of the garbage trucks, free snow removal. My entire youth, I prayed that we would get some kind of a blizzard there in South Florida. I knew we never would, just so they would have to live up to that. So no, Red, as a kid, I never grabbed a sled and went down my road for two reasons. Those islands didn't have hills. They were flat, like pancakes. And we didn't have any kind of snow. But for those of you who grew up in all of that, I can completely understand. I just love the fact that some Karen, there's some kids sledding down the middle of the road, and that's dangerous. She calls the police. The police show up and join them. Again, that's the America that I know and love. 642, wake up.
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97-WOODS and make your voice heard. AM 1030, K2 Radio.
Before we even get into this today, there is coffee cake in the upstairs here, over in the kitchen.
There's what?
Coffee cake.
Oh, in the kitchen upstairs?
Yes. Yeah. Now, there's just 4 of us today. So there should be plenty. Grab a nice, healthy chunk of that. Take it downstairs with you.
That's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for.
See, I kind of figured. Because, let's face it, it's a fake work day. And I'm doing a fake show today, just so you know. Okay, now, on that note, I decided to check to see how travelers are doing in the airways on this early start. Because a lot of people are trying to get to the airport and board airplanes today, right? And I do follow several because I'm a flight geek. Here's one called Flight Aware, where you can track airplanes. They have on there what they call a misery map. It's actually a page that they have, and it shows how bad it is in various areas. So what you see is a circle, and picture it like a pie, and the redder the circle gets, the bigger the chunk out of that circle, the more miserable people are.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. Right now, Denver does show a little sliver of red, but they're not bad. Still, there are some delays, but they're okay. Boston is almost a quarter red, and so is New York and D.C. But most of the country is okay right now.
For now.
Yes.
And that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Because those kind of events cascade.
Yes.
If you have delays in Washington, and your plane is coming from Washington, and you're in Denver and you want to go to L.A., you're going to be waiting a while.
So now I'll be checking in from time to time this morning just to see what other people's travel misery is. But currently, this is not bad nationwide, considering how many flights there are. There's 145 delays, 4 cancellations. I will now start taking bets on what that's going to be by the end of the day.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, one time I did travel over Thanksgiving, like on that, today.
Yeah.
It's crowded, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's unbearable? Not real. I mean, there's just people. If you are stuck.
Yes.
That changes
miserable.
People's attitudes.
Yes, it really does.
Because, I need to be there tomorrow. You know what? You knew that it's going to be a tough travel weekend. Why are you waiting until
tried,
Wednesday?
I think, once or twice in my life to do it on a holiday and decided never again. Like you said, if everything's in motion, fine. Yes, it's crowded, but you'll do okay. No problem.
Yeah.
But, it's really expensive, which is why I go on vacation a week after Thanksgiving. I've told you this before, because there's nobody flying and the airlines are desperate to fill seats, so they drop the prices to stupid low. That's when you go to stuff like this.
Yeah, and I'll take that every single time. But you know what? I like to go to the airports to watch people.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's watching me.
No, trust me, Frank. People are watching you and they're backing away.
All right, men's college basketball from yesterday. The Wyoming Cowboys posted a really nice win over Tulane down at the Cancun tournament, 64-63. Folks were down 16 in that deal and went ahead for good as Toko Tynamo nailed a three-pointer from the corner. That was as timely can be with 9 seconds to go. He finished with 13 points on 5 of 8 from the floor. Cowboys did this shooting less than 40% from the field and 5 of 22 from the three-point line. Obi Egbin led the way with 18 points for UW. They're 5-1 on the year. They'll play Loyola Marymount at 6:30 tonight. We'll have that for you on KC Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team will be in a tournament in Puerto Rico. They'll meet Drake tomorrow morning at 11:30. Cowgirls are 2-3 on the year after beating Colorado Christian their last time out. Then on Friday, the Cowgirls will play Norfolk State and then Virginia on Saturday. Junior college basketball, the Casper College Thunderbirds will host the annual T-Bird Thanksgiving Classic Friday and Saturday at the Erickson Gym. On Friday, the Lady T-Birds will take on North Idaho at 5 p.m. They come in at 4-4 with a win over Miles City, Montana, their last time out. T-Bird men will take on Lake Region State at 7 p.m. and the Birds are 7-2 after a 139-106 win over Miles City, their last time out. Then on Saturday, the Casper College women will play Lake Region at 4 and the men will take on McCook, Nebraska at 6 p.m. National Football League, yes, there are 3 games tomorrow on Thanksgiving and thank God for that. First game at 10:30, we'll have 10-1 Detroit beating 4-7 Chicago. The middle game at 2:30 will be the pillow fight of all time as the New York Giants at 2-9 will take on Dallas, who's 4-7. The late game at 6:20 will have 8-3 Green Bay taking on Miami, who comes in at 5-6. The Denver Broncos at 7-5 will host Cleveland on Monday night. And in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys will conclude their forgettable season with a road game at Washington State in Pullman. The Pokes are 2-9 after a narrow loss to Boise State, and Washington State is 8-3. Cougars are favored by 17, and the Cowboys are playing for pride. That's a 4:30 start from the Palouse. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper on Saturday and KOWB in Laramie. That's it in sports.
So forgettable because we want to forget it.
The whole season,
yes. Yes, just forget the whole thing. By the way, so this is 4:30 on Saturday.
Yeah.
So you have to space out how much pie is left over.
Well, I'm sure there's somewhere,
yes.
somehow.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
boy.
I know you're going to stuff yourself on Thanksgiving, but then you got to get through Friday and Saturday and have enough leftovers to enjoy the game.
You know, sometimes I like leftovers. Like I'll always have, stuffing is a good leftover.
Oh, my Lord, yeah.
Turkey sometimes, I don't know. You get burned out on that.
I actually like eating everything that I had on Thanksgiving, but cold. All of it. I don't even heat it up. I just eat it all cold.
Boy.
It's like cold pizza the next day.
You are a carnivore.
Carnivore. Damn straight.
Carnivore.
Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. You and I get back into it again. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Six at a time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Here comes Thanksgiving, and I can smell the casserole from here.
Today's show is sponsored by Osculation rejuvenation. For when the hits the fan.
And it will if you have that obnoxious lefty who's really still angry that Trump won. But anyway.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
On the topic of Thanksgiving, I got a lot that I'm going to do today. For those who want to hear the Rush Limbaugh story of Thanksgiving, I got that coming up. Of course, the neti pot story, which everybody tells me every year, don't tell, but I always have to tell the neti pot story. And yes, WKRP's turkey drop also makes it into the show this morning, of course. Now, you do have, some of you have, those friends who can't believe that you voted for Trump showing up for Thanksgiving. And I have a suggestion, possibly, medicating them early on.
Do you suffer from feelings of entitlement, self-righteousness, and arrogance? Fits of resentment, anger, and hypocrisy. Terror that the world is going to end. Or even worse, that the world isn't going to end and that things are going to get better. A deep need to point fingers, deflect, or deny. Uncontrollable stress, frustration, or depression. Fear of recession, fear of no recession. Then you may have PTDS, or President Trump Derangement Syndrome. Fortunately, there's new Magatol, the proven cure for PTDS. Just one Magatol a day realigns your sensibilities by bypassing erratic brain signals to amplify the logic receptors. Talk to your Obamacare doctor today to see if Magatol is right for you. Recommended dose of reality is at least once daily. Warning snowflakes. Side effects may include optimism, hope for the future, good feelings about your country, accepting economic prosperity, renewed faith in capitalism, and admitting that things aren't so bad under Trump. If you discover you are allergic to common sense, stop use immediately and contact your doctor. Relax. Breathe. It's Magatol from the makers of Triggerol.
Now, before I get into the topic that I have set up for the opening of this hour here, I just noticed in the same file that I have, there's the Offended song. Now, I don't remember why I put that in here. I recorded it, and I put it in here. But I'm looking at it going, I don't know what this is. I forget. So let's find out together.
Seems like these days, no matter what you say, someone's losing their ever-loving mind. It's like they're looking for a reason to have their fragile feelings hurt every single time. My country truck, I gas it up. You got your fancy Tesla hooked up to a plug. I know you're mad, you think I'm bad, 'cause I'm breathing free at last and you're still stuck behind your mask and I'm offended. Come on now, you're offended. Let's all get offended tonight. I'll order us a beer, we can sit down right here, screaming, yelling, cussing, fussing, fight.
Okay, now I remember that one. All right, so let's see. I did actually pick a real topic for this morning, a couple of Wyoming issues for you. First off, Teton County has let 103 illegal immigrants slip away in the past 2 years, according to ICE. Within the past 21 months, the Teton County Sheriff's Office has allowed 103 illegal immigrants, according to Cowboy State Daily, to slip away. Immigration, Customs and Enforcement on Tuesday countered earlier statements by the Democrat Teton County Sheriff Matt Carr regarding a dispute about whether Carr's office has scuttled ICE's operation in recent months. U.S. House of Representatives Harriet Hageman, Republican Wyoming, made the dispute public by announcing in her Sunday newsletter that the Teton County Sheriff's Office has not been honoring ICE's request to hold these people. Since February 2023, ICE enforcement and removal operations has issued 118 detain requests to the Teton County Sheriff's Office. asking the local agency to hold illegal immigrants in jail for up to 48 hours until ICE can get to them, according to an email. The detainers are often an administrative request from ICE pertaining to people who were already in the jail on suspected crimes, but also here illegally. So ICE would like to show up and do something about it. So this is where the dispute comes in. It's going to be interesting to see how this all comes together. ICE and Teton County Sheriff's Office haven't worked smoothly together since February 22nd of 2023, the ICE statement indicates. That was the date of an official talk between ICE and the sheriff out there. So this story says, Dorn, a correspondent to the sheriff car, informed ICE that the sheriff's office would only detain non-citizens based on a court request accompanied by a judge's signature. This is part of where the dispute comes in. That agreement allows ICE to pay to house illegal immigrants in the Teton County Jail for up to 72 hours instead of the standard 48. Okay, so not sure what happened. The story goes on. We'll find out. And a lot of this is going to change as President Trump gets into office. Now, at the same time, the Denver mayor, remember I told you guys about this, Denver mayor said, look, I'm not going to listen to the Trump administration. In fact, the mayor wanted a bunch of people to show up and make like a human wall to prevent people from being deported. He's not going to get that. He also wants the Denver Police Department to stop ICE from coming in. He's not going to get that either. And then when told, you could be arrested because if you don't help out, if you, in fact, even hide these people, whatever the case may be, you're not enforcing the law. Now, if you just want to get out of the way, okay. But if you do anything to obstruct, you're not enforcing the law, you can get arrested for that, in which case the Denver mayor righteously said, well, fine. Okay. Well, according to the gentleman who's going to be the new head of ICE, he's willing to go all the way and just arrest the Denver mayor. So this is heating up. This is going to get really interesting to see how this heats up. The headline, Denver mayor says he would go to jail to protect migrants. Trump's new border czar says, yeah, fine by us. Yeah, if that's what you would like to do, we can go ahead and arrange that. That's fine by us. So, okay, it's going to get really interesting to see how all of this plays out in the coming months and years, especially in the coming months as soon as Trump gets into office. How fast he can pull the trigger on this, I have no idea, but this is going to get really interesting.
Nah, I don't really eat it in the summer. I don't really eat it in the spring. Why is pie so perfect on Thanksgiving? Yeah, when was the time I last ate pie? I can't really remember, but I'm going to eat about 8 pieces on the 4th Thursday in November. Give me some pie!
Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:18 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So I was just talking about the mayor of Denver, who says he's perfectly okay with going to jail because he's not going to help in any way whatsoever collect the illegal immigrants and send them out of the country, to which the new border czar, who's already been to the border even though he doesn't officially have the job yet. Harris never really did that, nor did Biden, but okay. And he saw the border as it really was. He's flat out said he's fine with that. The guy's committing a felony by getting in the way. The mayor can be arrested. Now, here's what I would do is I would take the mayor of Denver and I would put him in jail with some of the worst illegals that have come across the border. You know, the gang members, et cetera, et cetera. And, yeah, let him go to jail and let him go to jail with the people that he is swearing to protect, the worst of them. Let him stay there for just a couple of days and bring him back out and then ask him if he's changed his mind about anything. I think it'd be a great idea. Red and Casper says his job, the mayor of Denver, is to uphold the law. He doesn't get to make the laws what he wants, which is correct. Although they did make Denver a sanctuary. Now, here's where Colorado oftentimes bucks the trend. And sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. Depends on what laws we're talking about. Okay, and I'm not picking and choosing here. I'm talking about Constitution law. When the state of Colorado, for example, says, well, we're going to legalize marijuana. And they're not the only state that's done this. Well, there are certain things that are up to states' rights. And there are certain things that are the federal government can control. And so when it comes to states' rights, so, for example, abortion is a state's rights. Each state gets to make their own abortion laws. That's the way we're set up, and the Supreme Court recently confirmed that. That's why we're in the situation we are now regarding abortion. And you want to legalize marijuana, Colorado? Go ahead. And even though it's still federal law that it's illegal, marijuana is illegal federally, the states get to make their own decisions on this, and they have. So it's a matter of enumerated rights when it comes to the Constitution. However, when we're talking about illegals coming across our border, and some of those illegals are quite literally armed gangs, and there's human trafficking, things like this. And there's national security risk here, not just because of the drug cartels and the human trafficking, but national security risk because of terrorism. That becomes a federal issue. And so when the federal government says, no, we can't have these people here, and they're crossing state lines left and right, even if they're just here to get jobs and start a new life, they're here illegally and they're crossing state lines left and right. So no, absolutely not. That's a federal issue. And so if the federal government says this is illegal and we need to get them out of here, then the feds need to deal with it. And the state should not be getting in the way in that case. You can see the difference between the two. I say Red and Casper. That's right, up there with when AOC got her blank handed to her when she tried to grill the head of the border guard. He simply stated the exact U.S. laws that they were breaking. And that's true. Ocasio-Cortez is an airhead, basically. Anyway, remember that picture that Googly Eyes took at the border? It was supposed to be the border. I don't think it was actually the border. She went to a fence with a photographer, and she's supposed to stand there at the fence and act like she's grieving. Some of you may have seen that picture, which was absolute, total fake anyway, and people lampoon the hell out of it. So, once again, AOC doesn't know what she's talking about there. So now this is going to be interesting when it comes to cleaning out illegals, how exactly this is going to play out. I'm very interested to see how Trump is going to do this because he wants to bring up the military to help. Some people say you can't do that. Can he invoke National Guard? I don't know. We have border security and patrol. Who can he call up and how? This is going to be different. Now, my way of doing it, getting rid of the illegals, first off, as I've said before, cut off the free stuff, all of it. No more free stuff. If you're in this country illegally, you're not getting anything free from the feds. Nothing. And the states need to comply with that too. Some will, some won't. But many of the states that say they're going to go ahead and continue to give aid to illegal immigrants really don't have the money to do it. They've been getting the money from the feds, from the Biden administration. So let's not do that. We just cut off the money. Okay, no money, and anyone who hires them, they're in trouble too. So no money, no jobs, no health care, none of that. A lot of them will just pack up and leave. To turn and say, we're going to run the rest of you out, we're going to come gather you up and we're going to ship you out. And forget this, the whole idea of, now we got to go through court with each and every one of them. They all get their trial. No, you're not here legally. We're going to put you on whatever kind of form of transportation, bus you, whatever, and drop you on the other side of the border. No, you're not going to court or anything. We're getting you out of here. Now, that's where it gets a little bit ugly, but we can do this. Just the threat of that. I mean, in a real threat, a lot of people will just pack up and leave because they don't want to face it. So that gets rid of another good chunk of people. There's people who left because they don't have any means to survive anymore. There's people who left because they're afraid of being deported. Now there's the rest of them that we actually have to go gather, which is a much smaller number, but still it'll be millions, that we have to go gather and move out of here. And that's where it gets a little on the ugly side. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Trump does this, and expect a lot of lawsuits from the left over this. It's not going to be as easy as Trump makes it sound. There's going to be all sorts of legal challenges. There's going to be states that get in the way. There's going to be some problems with this. So as much as I would like to say we get rid of illegal immigrants immediately, overnight, they're all just gone, the truth of the matter is it's not going to happen that easily. However, we can make a nice dent in it and a lot of progress right away, immediately, just by cutting off the free stuff. And then the real threat, this is the key, the real threat of actual deportation will take care of a lot more of them. After that, it gets to be difficult, but it's something I think we can do. Now, I am still in favor of, and I think a lot of you are too, anybody who we dump on the other side of the border, who turns to us and says, yeah, but we really would like to come into the country. Oh, absolutely. I don't have a problem with that. We have a vetting process. Every country does. Every country has a vetting process. And if you would like to come on through and go through the proper vetting, yes, we can go ahead and do that. Yeah, John and Gillette. So we can use the military. That, I know, John, if they try to do that, which I'm sure Trump will try to use the military. If they try to do that, immediately there's going to be legal challenges to that. And there's going to be those who say, you can't do that. You're using military on U.S. soil for, you're going to hear the legal challenges. But can it be done? Yes, but it's just not going to be as smooth as Trump makes it sound. It's going to be a long, and in some cases, ugly battle to get them out of here. But yeah, step one, cut off the free stuff. That's step one. Step two, they can't get any jobs because hiring someone illegal is going to get the boss in trouble. So that will solve a lot of that problem right there. With nothing left to survive on, many will leave. Next, actually deporting people will cause people to flee. Okay. But what we don't want it to do, when I say get tied up in court, it's not just the court lawsuits against the Trump administration, but there are going to be those who want every single illegal immigrant to have his day in court. Now, you're talking about 14 million. How long is that going to take? Right, which is why I say we got to find a way to skip that. Just establish, is that person in this country legally? No? Get on the bus. You're heading south. That's how fast we have to do it, because the way we currently do this, if somebody crosses the border illegally and they're caught, then, we get all of their information, and they're as dumb as this is. We actually tell them, well, you got to come back on this date to face your day in court. And that court date keeps going out and out further and further. Next thing you know, it's 2 years, 5 years. Come back in 5 years and you'll have your day in court. Something which is, of course, never going to happen. That's what we've been doing all of this time. John and Gillette, every Wyoming County Commission and Council should vote to support deportation of illegals. All right. Well, it is something I know that they're doing just to be seen doing it. But, yes, at the same time, they should support this. When ICE calls, there should be the full cooperation of every single city and county across the state of Wyoming. Yes, we have some people who are here illegally. Here, we're going to help you get them. Colorado's not going to do that. California's not going to do that. But states like Wyoming, oh, absolutely. That even puts the crunch on how many states these illegals can actually go to. Many of them will flee to California. What California do? Mike from the video stream Lead South Dakota. Start jailing lawyers and judges, and deportation gets easier. Well, if they're not cooperating, in fact, if they step out of the way and don't get involved, that's one thing. But they're actually obstructionists, then maybe you could. I can just imagine them, all the illegals fleeing to states like California and overwhelming California. I think that's something that could actually happen. Coming up on 7:30, local news, weather forecast. Wake Up Wyoming.
Saturday. Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So, Cheyenne, you're up on this story here from Wildfile. I told you about this before, but now we're getting real close to the date. Story says, with a quarter of Cheyenne's elementary schools set to close, and all the kids are going, yay, no, you still have to go to school. Parents are fighting back. It says David Williams took drastic measures to enroll his daughter in Jessup Elementary School, knowing that enrollment was competitive due to crowding. The Cheyenne attorney and father of three arrived outside the school around 2 a.m. the night before to get a spot in the front line. Really, 2 a.m. to get your kid into that school? Wow. He says, and I was not the first person there. I was like the third in line. William, usually you do that when a new movie comes out, like the latest great Star Trek movie comes out. Or Star Wars, for that matter, if it's a really good one. Not some of the flops they've come up with. But anyway, Williams went to such lengths. He had attended Jessup as a child. It was a great school, tight-knit neighborhood, he said. And, in fact, that's why he's been successful. So he wanted his kids to go to the same thing, have the same experience. He says, it's where we wanted our kids to go, and we were willing to do anything to make sure. Fast forward 12 years. And his three children have attended Jessup. His youngest is in first grade there. They've been able to walk or bike to school. You let your kids walk and bike to school by themselves unsupervised? At that age, somebody should call the cops. Anyway, but now the 31,710 square foot school building, constructed in 1961, set to be closed by 2027. Story says it's one of 8 elementary schools slated for closure under a controversial study seeking the most cost-effective remedy to address capacity. Cheyenne needs larger school district at County District 1. The study presents a major overhaul, the story says, of the district's current building makeup by closing more than a quarter of the district's elementary schools, expanding or replacing or constructing even other buildings, relying more on larger 5th and 6th grade schools. The work should take place through 2035. So the study was created, and you can imagine the outcry here. It's created a fervor, the story says, among parents in the district who bemoan the idea of losing an elementary school they value for access and charter in exchange for larger facilities. Critics question the methodology, the story says, and says the process was conducted with insufficient public input. So what I want to know is, I don't know the answer to this. Where are the kids going while all this destruction and construction is taking place? One parent said other options are available to address the school needs in balance and a fair manner. However, we now find ourselves with an extreme and disruptive outcome that does not prioritize and consider the students in this district. So the study came about through a routine and, a mandate, statewide, screening and assessment for educational buildings. And I know that Cheyenne is growing quite a bit. So they're busting at the seams in some places. That triggered the study. Wyoming School Facility Division hired a third-party contractor to complete the work, which entails weighing options spanning from constructing a new building to boundaries for eliminating buildings through consolidation. This is all supposed to save them a lot of money, that they said. And then the story goes on to talk about possible alternatives. What I want to know, and I don't know the answer to this, what I want to know is what are they going to do as they take down old buildings and put up new buildings. When I was a kid growing up in Florida, Florida's population exploded. And for a while, the state could not keep up with it. And so what they did was they just brought in all of these trailers that were classrooms. And so if you went by a school district, you suddenly noticed there were trailers all over the place. And when we went from one class to the next, in many cases, we would have to leave one trailer and walk over to the next trailer, which was the next class, as we switched classes. So is that what they have in mind? I don't know. To me, it's the transition between the two, but I know a lot of you parents in Cheyenne are pretty upset about the way that they're doing this right now, especially that, well, we're just going to have to close these schools. Okay. What is the bigger plan in the meantime? You got to consider, as you think about what you're going to do here in Cheyenne, your population is already busting at the seams and set to explode quite a bit more. We're going to have missile upgrades in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We already have overspill from Colorado coming in. It's part of the Front Range now, like it or not. Let's see, what else was going there? There's the missiles. There's some new facilities opening up for artificial intelligence and other, like that will be coming into the area. Some computer facilities, high-tech stuff that'll be moving in. That's going to bring in a lot of other people. So, yeah, your schools are really busting at the seams. All right, now a lot of you are getting ready or already traveling across the region. And you probably want to know what the weather forecast is like today, tomorrow, and through the weekend. I'll get Don Day on the line next. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
Wake Up Wyoming off. We go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. So, Don, when I was arriving at work this morning, it was light, but just a few little flurries were coming down out of the sky.
Around central Wyoming. We still have snow falling right now around Laramie and Cheyenne. That's kind of the last of the piece of this storm system that's been affecting the state. So those areas will see the best chance of snow early today. Few flurries elsewhere, but the trend now is generally speaking just going to be cold and dry for the days ahead. We mentioned yesterday there's going to be some flurries up over northern Wyoming tomorrow, but really that's about it.
Okay, and I think you were mentioning in your podcast this morning that early morning, you might be a little bit slick out there. We get later into the day, though. Traveling shouldn't be all that bad as far as we're concerned here in Wyoming anyway.
Yeah, I-80 is the exception to that. It's pretty slick between Evanston and Cheyenne. So if you're going to be venturing down into that part of the state, even with the sun coming out later, there's still going to be some slick spots, but the weather will be improving for travel for sure.
Okay. Now, speaking of I-80, I do know further south down in Colorado, their weather situation is a little bit different than ours. Is there any spillover into Wyoming over the weekend?
Well, not over the weekend. I mean, okay. What's happening in Colorado is what's causing that light snow in the southeast corner right now. But there are places that got well over 2 feet of snow in the central mountains of Colorado, and probably going to have some places approaching 30 inches or more. So that's still kind of a mess down there. If you don't have to go down there, probably a good idea until tomorrow when things clear out.
Okay. And I am looking, I know your road report's coming up a little bit later on this morning, next hour as a matter of fact, but I am looking at Cheyenne all the way over to the west, and then also up through Jackson and Yellowstone. And YDOT has oranged out quite a bit of that stuff as just watch out because it's really slick conditions out here. So if you're heading anywhere west from Cheyenne out, and then from on the west side of the state all the way up through Jackson Hole, YDOT showing some really slick roads out there. But now if you're on I-25, not bad.
No, not bad. Depends on where you are, which is usually the case.
Yeah, usually the case. Okay. Hey, you have yourself a great Thanksgiving.
You too.
Okay. So there you go. Just watch out. I-80 is usually the problem, isn't it? Okay, off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino waiting by. Okay, Frank, usually I pull up some really clever stuff to talk about, but I decided just this time I will go ahead and take a look at the travel misery index again. I'm glad they have a misery index.
Yes. Now, you've already mentioned airports. You should also, in some places, like train stations.
Oh, yeah.
Highways.
I-80 right now. And if you're in Colorado in the Front Range and you want to go over the mountains west, not right now, you're not.
Yeah. You could stay home.
You could. Right. So this morning,
or you could take a space rocket or something.
Fine. An hour ago, I told you there were 145 delays and maybe just a few cancellations. Now we're at 2 cancellations, 220 delays. What's also Denver has more of them. I'm not surprised about that. We still have JFK and Boston, number one. Denver is in fourth place right now for delays. What's also interesting about the map, when I drag the cursor over different cities, it shows me delays from where to where. So between San Francisco and Denver, really bad. Between LAX and Denver, really bad. It depends on where you're going that those delays are happening.
You know, when they built that airport, they said, you know what, we have all these runways. This place will never close.
Never, no.
And a couple times it has, because it has snowed so much. They just can't keep up. I mean,
what got me is when they were first rebuilding that airport, I remember this. They had a automated baggage system.
Yeah, they canned that. Yeah.
Okay, now what was funny was it was showing some camera crew from some news station got in there and showed the baggage system doing things like dropping bags off the conveyor belt. Mm-hmm. One system that was supposed to transfer a bag from here to here threw the bag, and they said
it was a train wreck.
Totally. Yeah, the airport manager actually said, well, we were trying to build a system that would replace the employees that work there. And I think, well, you did that exactly. It's throwing bags all over the place, losing them. I mean, that's what you asked them to build. That's exactly what you got out of that.
I remember that. It was bad. But the airport itself was supposed to be like non-closable unless it was
it hasn't been closed. My only complaint about Denver, because I do think what they ended up with was pretty well designed, is when I get off from, I leave Wyoming, I fly down to Denver, and then as soon as I get down that chute, I have to immediately make my way all the way across to the other side of the airport as fast as a human being can travel.
You know what? Just claim lameness and get on the golf cart. They'll take you.
They will?
Just say, please.
I'll have to try that. I'm sorry.
I've done it, and my only disability of the day was I was hungover. Okay, just telling you. Men's college basketball from yesterday, the Wyoming Cowboys posted a really nice win in Cancun, beating Tulane 64-63, and the Pokes rallied from 16 points down in the second half to win that one. Cowboys went ahead as Toko Tinamo with a three-pointer from the corner, and that was as timely can be. He finished with 13 points on 5 of 8 from the floor. The Cowboys did this, shooting less than 40% from the field and just 5 of 22 from the three-point line. Obi Egbin led the way with 18, and UW 5-1 on the year. They'll play Loyola Marymount at 6:30 tonight. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team will be in a tournament in Puerto Rico this week. They'll meet Drake University tomorrow at 11:30. Cowgirls are 2-3 on the year after beating Colorado Christian their last time out. Then on Friday, the Cowgirls will play Norfolk State, and then play Virginia on Saturday. Junior college basketball, Casper College will host the annual Thanksgiving Classic Friday and Saturday at the Erickson Gym on Friday. The Lady T-Birds will play North Idaho at 5 p.m. and they come in at 4-4 after a win over Miles City, Montana, their last time out. T-Bird men on Friday will take on Lake Region State at 7 p.m. The Birds are 7-2 after a 139-106 victory over Miles City. Then on Saturday, the Casper College women will play Lake Region State at 4, and then the men will take on McCook, Nebraska at 6. In the National Football League, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow. That means football. 3 games. The first game at 10:30 we'll have 10-1 Detroit meeting 4-7 Chicago. The middle game at 2:30 will be the pillow fight of all time. The New York Giants at 2-9 play Dallas, who comes in at 4-7. And the late game at 6:20 we'll have 8-3 Green Bay taking on Miami, who comes in at 5-6. Denver Broncos, they're 7-5 on the year. They're going to host the Cleveland Browns on Monday night. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys will conclude their forgettable season with a road game at Washington State in Pullman on Saturday afternoon. The Cowboys are 2-9 after a narrow loss to Boise State, and Washington State is 8-3, and they're favored by 17 points in the game. The Cowboys just playing for pride. That's a 4:30 start from the Palouse. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. That's it, sports.
I don't care if it's a pillow fight as long as there's enough stuffing and pie.
There will be. The stuffing and the pie will probably be more entertaining than watching the Dallas Cowboys play the New York Giants.
And since you will be sleeping through most of it anyway,
right? Yeah, you're not going to miss anything unless there's a brawl or something.
Sure, you wake up every few minutes. You look at what the score is, you roll over, go back to sleep, or you go for more leftovers. I don't see the problem here.
No, not really.
Not really. No.
Thank God for Thanksgiving food.
Thank God, yeah. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. Hey, we get in news time. We get into the 8 o'clock hour, as I do every year at this time. People ask for the true story of Thanksgiving as told by Rush Limbaugh. And I know we all miss him, but I got that queued up and ready to go to start your 8 o'clock hour. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
No.
6 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's just so close to time to sit down and enjoy turkey. I swear I can smell it from here.
Today's show is sponsored by Osculation Rejuvenation. For when the hits the fan.
Which will happen at the dinner table as soon as that person who lost the election gets really upset and finally blows their cork. But anyway.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Some years ago, talk radio was struggling to figure out how to find its format, to find its footing. What I mean by that is, FM radio had come around, and with FM radio, music all went to FM radio because it sounds so much better. And AM radio was struggling to try to figure out its place. I know there are some car manufacturers who want to get rid of AM radio, but what saved AM radio was talk radio. Now, at first we had something called the Fairness Doctrine, and the Fairness Doctrine meant if I had a guest on, for example, that had a particular point of view, then I have to go find a guest and give them equal time from an opposite point of view. If I, as the host, expressed a point of view, we have to have equal time for the opposite point of view. And the reason why is there weren't that many radio stations, by comparison, around the country, and just a few companies owned them. So they were trying to be fair. But over time, there's more radio stations, more TV stations, also cable and satellite TV. Eventually, even the Internet came around. We don't need the Fairness Doctrine anymore, and it was ditched. And so talk radio began looking for where it could find ratings, because even though it was out there and doing okay, it was really kind of bland and boring because they were trying to constantly be fair about it. Then they entered the era of opinion radio, which was really difficult. I heard a lot of hosts on opinion radio trying to figure out how to do it. They would get on the air and read something out of a newspaper. Newspapers were a big thing back then. The Internet wasn't around yet. And they would talk about it and try to give an opinion, but they still sounded afraid to. And then they would start begging their audience for calls because, it's your show, golly, And, your opinion matters to us, so call the show. And they were just dying out there. Then came the era of the shock jocks. And the shock jocks were interesting at first, but people got really tired of them really fast. And advertisers didn't want to advertise with them because, well, who wants to advertise with someone who's being vulgar and screaming at the audience? Thankfully, shock radio didn't last very long. Then came Rush Limbaugh. And I can get into the whole thing about how he got his start, but basically someone who was given an opportunity to put a show on radio stations across the country needed a host to host those shows. And he went looking for someone, and he found Rush Limbaugh in Sacramento, California, and Rush was unique. And what Limbaugh did for us is he showed the rest of us out there how to do talk radio. Now, I think personally today talk radio needs another revival because most of it's a bunch of bitter old men just screaming into the microphone, and it grates on me. I can't listen to it most of the time. Limbaugh was unique. When he first got started, he was sarcastic and satirical, extremely funny, and he made his point, and he was the first real conservative out there. Among a sea of liberal hosts, he was a conservative. And man, he took over. Talk radio became conservative talk radio across the country because of him. And he saved AM radio. To this day, most people, this is what I like about the AM radio audience, about the talk radio audience, because talk radio is also on FM. This program is on AM and FM stations, both. But the thing about the talk radio audience is you guys are engaged. You get with me early in the morning. Some people are texting me before I get on the air. And you're with the entire show. You're with us all day. And it's not background noise. It's up front, and you're engaged. And that's what makes the talk radio audience so unique. And Limbaugh was so good at it. He showed us how to do it. I do miss him. We lost him, was it a couple of years ago now? But every single year we get to Thanksgiving, and people ask me to play what I'm about to play for you right now. As Rush Limbaugh did one of his most famous bits and talked about the true history, meaning, and story behind Thanksgiving.
Time for the traditional true story of Thanksgiving, written by me in my second bestseller, 2.5 million copies in hardback. See, I Told You So. Chapter 6, Dead White Guys, or What the History Books Never Told You. The true story of Thanksgiving. The story of the Pilgrims begins in the early part of the 17th century. The Church of England under King James I was persecuting anyone and everyone who did not recognize its absolute civil and spiritual authority. Those who challenged ecclesiastical authority and those who believed strongly in freedom of worship were hunted down, imprisoned, and sometimes executed for their beliefs. A group of separatists first fled to Holland and established a community. After 11 years, about 40 of them agreed to make a perilous journey to the New World, where they would certainly face hardships but could live and worship God according to the dictates of their own consciences. On August 1st, 1620, the Mayflower set sail. It carried a total of 102 passengers, including 40 pilgrims led by William Bradford. On the journey, Bradford set up an agreement, a contract, that established just and equal laws for all members of the new community, irrespective of their religious beliefs. Where did the revolutionary ideas expressed in the Mayflower Compact come from? They came from the Bible. The Pilgrims were a people completely steeped in the lessons of the Old and New Testaments. They looked to the ancient Israelites for their example. And because of the biblical precedent set forth in Scripture, they never doubted that their experiment would work. But it was no pleasure cruise. The journey to the New World was a long and arduous one, and when the Pilgrims landed in New England in November, they found, according to Bradford's detailed journal, a cold, barren, desolate wilderness. There were no friends to greet them, he wrote. There were no houses to shelter them. There were no inns where they could refresh themselves, and the sacrifice that they had made for freedom was just beginning. During the first winter, half the Pilgrims, including Bradford's own wife, died of either starvation, sickness, or exposure. When spring finally came, Indians taught the settlers how to plant corn, fish for cod, and skin beavers for coats. Life improved for the Pilgrims, but they did not yet prosper. And this is important to understand because this is where modern American history lessons often end. Thanksgiving is actually explained in some textbooks as a holiday for which the Pilgrims gave thanks to the Indians for saving their lives, rather than as a devout expression of gratitude grounded in the tradition of both the Old and New Testaments. Here's the part that's been omitted. The original contract the Pilgrims had entered into with their merchant sponsors in London called for everything they produced to go into a common store, and each member of the community was entitled to one common share. All of the land that they cleared and the houses they built belonged to the community as well, and they were going to distribute it equally. All the land they cleared, the houses they built, belonged to the community. Nobody owned anything. They just had a share in it. It was a commune. It was the forerunner to the communes we saw in the 60s and 70s out in California. And it was complete with organic vegetables even, just like the communes of today are. There's no question it was organic vegetables. Bradford, who had become the new governor of the colony, recognized that this form of collectivism was as costly and destructive to the Pilgrims as that first harsh winter, which had taken so many lives. He decided to take bold action. Bradford assigned a plot of land to each family to work and manage thus turning loose the power of the marketplace. Long before Karl Marx was even born, the Pilgrims had discovered and experimented with what could only be described as socialism. And what happened? It didn't work. They nearly starved. It never has worked. What Bradford and his community found was that the most creative and industrious people had no incentive to work any harder than anybody else, unless they could utilize the power of personal motivation. But while most of the rest of the world has been experimenting with socialism for well over 100 years, trying to refine it, perfect it, and reinvent it, the Pilgrims decided early on to scrap it permanently. What Bradford wrote about this social experiment should be in every school child's history lesson. If it were, we might prevent such needless suffering in the future, such as that we are enduring now. The experience that we had in this common course and condition, this is Bradford, the experience we had in this common course and condition tried Sunday years, that by taking away property and bringing community into a commonwealth would make them happy and flourishing as if they were wiser than God, Bradford wrote. For this community, so far as it was found to breed much confusion and discontent and retard much employment that would have been to their benefit and comfort. For young men that were most able and fit for labor and service did repine that they should spend their time and strength to work for other men's wives and children without being paid for it. That was thought injustice. Why should you work for other people when you can't work for yourself? What's the point? That's what he was saying. The Pilgrims found that people could not be expected to do their best work without incentive. So what did Bradford's community try next? They unharnessed the power of good, old, free enterprise by invoking the undergirding capitalistic principle of private property. Every family was assigned its own plot of land to work and permitted to market its own crops and products. What was the result? Bradford wrote, this had very good success, for it made all hands industrious, so as much more corn was planted than otherwise would have been. Is it possible that supply-side economics could have existed before the 1980s? Yes. Read the story of Joseph and Pharaoh in Genesis 41. Following Joseph's suggestion, Pharaoh reduced the tax on Egyptians to 20%. During the 7 years of plenty, and the earth brought forth in heaps. Well, in no time, the Pilgrims found that they had more food than they could eat themselves. Now this is where it gets really good. If you're laboring under the misconception that I was, as I was taught in school, they set up trading posts. They exchanged goods with the Indians. The profits allowed them to pay off their debts to the merchants in London. And the success and the prosperity of the Plymouth settlement attracted more Europeans and began what came to be known as the Great Puritan Migration. But this story stops when the Indians taught the newly arrived suffering and socialism Pilgrims how to plant corn and fish for cod. That's where the original Thanksgiving story stops. Story basically doesn't even begin there. The real story of Thanksgiving is William Bradford giving thanks to God for the guidance and the inspiration to set up a thriving colony that socialism caused near starvation. The bounty was shared with the Indians. They did sit down. They did have free-range turkey and organic vegetables. But it wasn't the Indians who saved the day. It was capitalism and Scripture which saved the day, as acknowledged by George Washington in his first Thanksgiving proclamation in 1789.
You asked for an expert. We didn't have the budget for that. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
Also, over in Casper, the Payson, that piece from Rush, he says, was so good, you need to play it again next hour. Just make sure everybody hears it at least once, if not twice. It was fantastic to hear his voice again, and I agree with that. To hear his voice again, because he was a true master of this craft here. again, really showed everybody in talk radio how to do talk radio. He brought so much to it, just a master of it. So that story of the true story of Thanksgiving, by the way, is every year on the Wake Up Wyoming website. It is this morning. If you have the app and you get app alerts, Miss Mary will send that out at some point this morning. Or just go to the Wake Up Wyoming website. You can either use your browser to do that or use the Wake Up Wyoming app. And the story is there with that video, with everything that you just heard from Rush Limbaugh, which doesn't surprise me. The first time he did that bit on air, which was he was reading from his book, See, I Told You So. The first time I heard that, I'm with Rush on this. I was told that Thanksgiving was a completely different thing than what had actually happened. Fact of the matter is that those who had come to America, the Pilgrims, had become friends with the Indians and began, because they were successful when they started doing things, not in a commune way, but in more of a competitive, profitable, capitalistic way. Yes, they actually started trading. They set up trading posts and became friends with the American Indians in the area. And so when they had this abundance, they decided, let's sit down with our friends and have a feast to celebrate. And the whole purpose of the celebration, because they were Puritans, they were thanking God for the abundance. And they invited their friends, the Indians. And they, they went hunting together and killed turkeys. And then brought all sorts of other different dishes there and sat down and had a meal together. And that's what we do to this day. We come together. I've come across websites how to have a non-offensive Thanksgiving celebration. There's nothing offensive about this. This was a great moment in the history of this, what would become this nation. But as people sat down together as friends and enjoyed the excess that they had created together, and Limbaugh was correct to point out how that excess came to be. When they tried to operate as a commune, didn't work out. But when they worked instead as individuals to make as much as they could to profit from it, they achieved great things, and people were happy and in abundance because of it. Even paid off. Remember, the trip to come from the old world to the new world, they still had to pay that off. And they did in a very short period of time as they started to produce in abundance, because they got rid of their commune way of thinking. So there's a lot more to unpack here, and I will. Oh, and don't worry, for those people who want to hear the WKRP turkey drop bit, that's coming up. But also, everybody tells me every year not to do it, but I always have to, because even though you tell me not to do it, you always listen. Later on this morning, the neti pot story, my own story of a Thanksgiving gone horribly wrong. Coming up on 8:30, local news coming your way after local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. Wake Up Wyoming.
The best talk show host in the state, within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So after playing that bit from Rush Limbaugh, let me tell you what it makes me think about on Thanksgiving, because yeah, again, there are those elements of society, and it's a small group. It is a small group. Like PETA, eating food like that. And those who want us to think about Thanksgiving as, well, we ended up just murdering all of those indigenous peoples across the land. All right, hang on. Hold on. Reality check. And I'm going to make it an ugly reality check. And I'm not going to make anyone look good or bad. I'm just going to hit you with reality. Before Europeans got to the Americas, North and South, When you take a look at the tribes that lived in both North and South America, the idea that they were peaceful and at harmony with nature and each other, the hell they were. They fought constantly. And I've even heard they didn't understand the concept of private property ownership. Yes, they did. If you take a look at Indians in the New England states, they had cabins. I mean, actual cabins. And forts with wooden walls around them, the same way we built. The only difference is their cabins didn't have chimneys. They just had a hole in the middle. Other than that, it looked like a cabin, like a log cabin. That's before we ever got here. You head down further south, they had more of these rounded mud and stick hut-looking thing. And then as you head further west, the Mounds Indians. We also had the... when you get down into the southwestern part of the country, they built into rock formations, cliffs. They also made stone houses. In fact, in place of the Great Plains Indians, really didn't use the teepee, not really, until Spaniards that were exploring the countryside left horses behind. And then they became more nomadic and just dragged teepees around. But that was the Plains Indians that did that. But fought with each other? Oh, my Lord, yeah. Get into South America, and dear Lord, Aztecs, Incas, all the other different peoples that lived down there. Wow, they warred with each other. They took slaves. North American Indians took slaves, too, by the way. Mainly of women and children, but they also made slaves of people, and they committed genocide. Both North and South American Indians committed genocide, wiped out other tribes. When the white man arrived from Europe, the only difference between us and them was technology, which is why the Europeans were the tribe that beat all other tribes across the Americas. And we did horrible things to them. We really did. We did horrible things, unspeakable things. But just to put it in perspective, I'm not making an excuse, no excuses here, but just to put it in perspective, they were doing the same things to each other before we got here. So if you're looking for a good guy and a bad guy, you're not going to find it. Okay? We were all equally nasty to each other. And there were times that, in fact, when you take a look at the history, since we're out west here, in most cases, people who were moving out west got along just fine with the American Indians in the area. In most cases, the Indian tribes and the white peoples got along just fine. There were other cases where we fought, and we both did cruel and inhuman and unspeakable things to each other. Because, people get into conflicts with each other. Yes, the white man lied to the Indians, and the Indians lied to each other and lied to the white man. So, if you're looking for a good guy and a bad guy, you're really not going to find it. You're really not. That's just a reality check on what happened. I've often thought, if the Americas, North and South America, had been more advanced than Europe, and they had discovered Europe, the same thing would have happened. They would have conquered Europe. Would have been a completely different kind of history, but the same history, if you think about it, as they would have conquered Europe. When I think about the first Thanksgiving, though, I think of not just that we were friends with the peoples who were already here in America when we first got here with those tribes. Got along with them just fine. Again, in most cases, American Indians and people who were settling from Europe, in most cases, got along fine. Right. Didn't end well, but in the beginning, we got along just fine. When I think of, though, what really happens, what we celebrate on Thanksgiving, is the beginning of something that is a great American experiment, something that's never been done before. And that is the idea of freedom and liberty, which is something I hope that we have with this next election here. Because, as more of the libertarian among us, I look at ever-encroaching government and I want it out of our lives because we've been giving up more of our freedoms and liberties. And the idea of America is government is not here to tell you what to do. Government is not here to provide for you. You are a free person in a free country. Your life is yours. Go build your life. Now, that means a whole lot of responsibility, but go build your life. And some of you are going to perform outstanding and become incredibly successful. Whatever success means to you, you're going to be successful. And other people aren't going to do so well, but that's on you to figure it out. That's what freedom is. Worship if you worship. Worship whatever you want to worship. If you're religious, whatever that religion means, go ahead. If you're not religious, if you're an atheist, do that. That's up to you. You want to be a successful entrepreneur? Do that. You don't want to be. You just want to live an average American middle-class life? Do that. You want to raise a family? Live where you want to live. Choose your profession. Whatever success means to you. And government's job is to protect that. Government is not here to tell you what to do or provide for you. Government is here to make sure we have a military to keep us in a bubble of freedom. Police and fire will protect our lives and property as best they can. Courts will help us to settle our disputes. But the government's not really supposed to do too much else. And we can let them build some roads and bridges and stuff like that. But really, we're not supposed to allow them to do a whole lot else. And that's what America, the great American experiment, really was all about. When the Pilgrims first came here, it was for religious freedom. They had a certain way that they saw God, the Bible, the world around them, and they wanted the freedom to worship as they saw fit. Because back in Europe, they weren't allowed to. Talk about a cancel culture. They wanted to go somewhere where they could worship as they saw fit. And if other people lived around them, like American Indian tribes lived around them, worshipped in a different way, if they worshipped at all, that's their business. That's the great American experiment that we have here. True freedom and liberty. Not a cancel culture idea, by the way. I-80 John. Morning, Glenn. Not stolen, conquered. Yeah. Well, and some people say, well, we conquered them. You know, they were conquering each other. But the American Indians were busy conquering and slaughtering each other before we got here. That's why I often say, when you get right down to it, we are the tribe that beat all other tribes, we white people. That's about the only difference. Other than that, we all did horrible things to each other. But despite the mistakes that we may have made and the horrors and so on, good news is that great American experiment made the freest and most successful, most prosperous, most technologically advanced country the world has ever seen. You're in it right now. And that is nothing to be ashamed of. 8:45, wake up.
Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming, weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
Gambino waiting by. Okay, Frank, I'm going to go through what is a traditional Thanksgiving dinner, and you tell me what dishes you like and pass on, okay?
I am ready.
All right. Well, of course, turkey.
Yes.
White meat, dark meat?
White.
Okay. Actually, I don't mind the white meat. I usually go for the dark meat.
Oh.
Okay.
Usually, sometimes if you're really that hungry, you'll take whatever is closest to your fork.
What I do at first is I do a sample platter, and then because I can always go back.
Yeah.
But I tend to favor the dark meat on that one.
Okay.
Okay. Stuffing?
Yes.
Okay, obviously.
With gravy.
Okay. Mashed potatoes.
Yes.
Okay. Now I like the
with
chunky
gravy.
I like the chunky mashed potatoes with the little bits of skin in there. Or do you like the smooth stuff?
Smooth stuff, yeah.
Okay.
But you got to throw something on there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but again, I like the chunkier with the bits of skin and so on. Okay. Cranberry sauce.
Pass.
Yeah, okay. To me, first off, if it's fresh made cranberry, not the stuff that comes out in the shape of the can, and even then I just have a little bit. I like a little taste and I'm done.
I could pick the stuff off the tree and I still wouldn't have it.
Yeah, okay. Pumpkin pie.
Yes, but not... Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how to put that, but yeah.
Okay. But there's also sweet potato pie, which to me tastes just like pumpkin pie.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Pecan pie.
Yes.
Okay. I do like it when they have cheesecake. I'm a huge cheesecake fan.
Yes, double yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sweet potato casserole.
Pass.
Me too. Okay.
No more casserole. Stop.
Corn pudding.
No.
Okay. Buttery rolls.
Yes.
Yes, you have to have something, because everything gets doused in all of that gravy. You have to have something to sop it up with.
Yeah, that is a staple of
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
Green beans.
Pass.
You don't like the green beans? Okay. Which I guess that means you don't like the green bean casserole.
No.
Okay. No, I actually enjoy the green bean casserole. That is something that I do like.
You're weird.
We all know this, Frank. You don't need a Thanksgiving dinner to figure out if I'm weird or not.
That's how you figure out what people are really about, is what they're eating for Thanksgiving. All right, the Wyoming Cowboy basketball team defeated Tulane yesterday in the Cancun, Mexico tournament, 64-63, and a really nice win for the Pokes. They were down 16 in that game. Toko Tanimo nailed a three-pointer in the corner, so that's a timely shot right from the corner, and he made it, and it was perfectly set up. He finished with 13 points on 5 of 8 from the floor. Cowboys did shoot less than 40% from the floor on 5 of 22 from the three-point line. Obi Eggman led the way with 18 points, and he's had a terrific year so far for the Pokes. UW 5-1 on the year, and they'll play Loyola Marymount tonight at 6:30. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. Wyoming Cowgirls, they are in the tournament in Puerto Rico this week. They'll meet Drake tomorrow morning at 11:30. Cowgirls are 2-3 on the year. They beat Colorado Christian their last time out on Friday morning. Then this Friday, they will take on Norfolk State in that Puerto Rico tournament, and then Virginia on Saturday. JUCO basketball, Casper College will host the annual T-Bird Thanksgiving Classic Friday and Saturday at the Erickson Gym. On Friday, the T-Bird ladies will take on North Idaho at 5 p.m. They come in at 4-4 on the year with a win over Miles City their last time out. And the T-Bird men on Friday will play Lake Region State at 7 p.m. Birds are 7-2 after a 139-106 win over Miles City their last time out. Then on Saturday, the Casper College women will play Lake Region State at 4, and the men will take on McCook at 6. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys will conclude their forgettable season with a road game at Washington State and Pullman. The Pokes are 2-9 after a narrow loss to Boise State, and Washington State is 8-3. Cougars are favored by 17 points in that game, and the Cowboys are playing for pride, and that's about it. So hopefully that they don't just mail in the game. That's a 4:30 start from the Palouse on Saturday afternoon. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. Football tomorrow for Thanksgiving in the National Football League. First game at 10:30. We'll have 10-1 Detroit meeting 4-7 Chicago. That middle game at 2:30 will be a pillow fight. The New York Giants at 2-9 will play the Dallas Cowboys, and they're 4-7. And the late game at 6:20 have 8-3 Green Bay taking on Miami, who comes in at 5-6. The Denver Broncos at 7-5 will host Cleveland on Monday night. That's in sports.
Now, leftovers. I do like taking white turkey and I put it on Jewish rye with way too much mayonnaise.
I just, I will just microwave the turkey with gravy and then stuffing with gravy, and that's all I really do with Thanksgiving leftovers, with the exception of the pastries.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And pastries, what do you just nibble on them all the time?
Yeah. I mean, if there's extra pie, you take a little bit of that,
Now, as far as making another plate, as I said last hour, I can go ahead and put that plate, if I make a whole nother plate like it's another Thanksgiving dinner, I can either put it in the microwave and warm it up, and that's fine, or I can eat the whole thing cold, and I'm okay with that too. Either way, it's good to me.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're like a wild animal that there's nothing wasted in the wild.
In fact, you will find me later on in my head in the refrigerator, gnawing on the bones of what's left over, looking for that last morsel of meat.
I don't even want to even
don't even want to picture that. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. Oh, next hour, because it's always requested on this program, the WKRP turkey drop. And there's two parts to that. There's what happened at the turkey drop, but then there's what happened when the boss came back and explained, and even her, the whole story is explained from the turkey's point of view. We'll do that next hour. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 9:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Here comes Thanksgiving, and I swear I can smell the pie from here.
Today's show is sponsored by Osculation Rejuvenation. For when that hits the fan.
It does as soon as that big mouth who lost the election opens up their yapper, instead of stuffing food into it, wants to preach to you over dinner.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Okay, first off, Micah, who's in Cheyenne, says, Cheyenne is officially under a thin blanket of snow. Very pretty. And I'm sure people that are around the Cheyenne area, there in Laramie County and where else, are seeing the same thing. Laramie, in fact, the town ought to be seeing that. And as we head westward, on that note, from Cheyenne west to I-80, very slick out there right now. Careful if you're driving I-80. And then if you're on the extreme western side of Wyoming, any roads north and south on the western side of Wyoming, from the bottom all the way up to Yellowstone, again, same kind of really slick conditions. Okay, now, one of the things that I loved when the TV show WKRP in Cincinnati came around was, and trust me, having been in this business since 1983, I can tell you, they nailed the heydays of radio. I have worked with, in my lifetime, every personality type that you saw on that television show. Every personality type. In fact, the guy who wrote WKRP wrote it because he worked in radio, so he knows exactly what it was like. The actor who played Johnny Fever has a radio background. So the reason he looked like he was so comfortable in that studio, he did that. So he knows exactly how to make it look real. Love WKRP in Cincinnati. One of the most famous programs they ever did was Turkeys Away, which every single year at this time, people beg me, would you please play Turkeys Away? Now, in my mind, there's two parts to this. The first part, I'm about to play for you, is when they go to the live remote and there's their newsman standing, Les Nessman, standing at the grocery store waiting for this big event, and the boss did not tell them what they were going to do. It just had to do with giving away turkeys. Didn't say anything about what he was going to do. But it was going to be a big surprise. That's part one. Part two is when Les comes back to the radio station. It takes place in the front office of the radio station. Tell us, Les, what happened. And Les explains it from his point of view. That I'll play after the commercial break. Here's part one.
All right, fellow babies, and now it's time to go to our live remote man on the scene at the Pinedale Shopping Mall for the big WKRP turkey giveaway. So, take it away, Les Nessman.
This is Les Nessman, your man on the scene here at the Pinedale Shopping Center where the excitement is mounting. We're here to witness the big WKRP turkey Thanksgiving giveaway.
Hey, you got permission to be out here?
What?
You're blocking my store here, buddy.
Don't you know who I am? I'm Les Nessman. I won the Buckeye Newshawk Award last year.
Good for you, Buckeye. Now get out of my doorway.
I'm sorry. Freak.
So far, so good, huh?
I'm here with hundreds of people who have gathered to witness what has been described as perhaps the greatest turkey event in Thanksgiving Day history. All we know for sure is
that in a very few moments there are going to be a lot of happy people out here. Now, the crowd is curious, but well behaved. And I think I hear something now. The crowd is moving out into the parking area. And, oh yes, I can see it now. It's a helicopter. And it's coming this way.
A helicopter?
It's flying something behind it. I can't quite make it out. It's a large banner. And it says, Happy Thanksgiving from WKRP. What a sight, ladies and gentlemen, what a sight. The copter seems to be circling the parking area now. I guess it's looking for a place to land. No, something just came out of the back of the helicopter. It's a dark object. Perhaps a skydiver plummeting to the earth from only 2,000 feet into the air. third. There's no parachutes yet.
Those can't be skydivers. I can't tell just yet what they are, but... Oh, my God, they're turkeys! Oh, Johnny, can you get this? Oh, they're crashing to the earth right in front of our eyes! One just went through the windshield of a parked car! Johnny, this is terrible.
Everyone's running around, pushing each other. Oh, my goodness. Oh, the humanity. People are running about. The turkeys are hitting the ground like sacks of wet cement. I don't know how much longer the crowd is running for their lives. I think I'm going to step inside. I can't stay out here and watch this any longer. No, I can't go in there.
Children are searching for their mothers, and not since the Hindenburg tragedy has there been anything like this. I don't know how much longer I can hold my position here, Johnny. The crowd...
Les, are you there? Les isn't there. Thanks for that on-the-spot report, Les. For those of you who just tuned in, the Pinedale Shopping Mall has just been bombed with live...
Okay, so according to the way I hear the story told, the actor who played Les Messman, yes, he did draw his inspiration from the Hindenburg. When you listen to the reporter who's crying, oh, the humanity, when the Hindenburg was going up in flames, that's where he went ahead and drew that inspiration from, as the turkeys came plummeting to the ground like big sacks of wet cement. So, okay. So you can imagine the damage done to the cars in the parking lot. There's people running back and forth screaming. Now, that's just the first part of it. Because to me, what was just as funny as what I'll play after this little news and information break is part two. Because the boss comes back to the radio station and at first runs and hides in his office because he's the one who did this. Les comes back and Les is not looking good. He looks like he just got beaten up, and he did. He did get beaten up, but not by people. And so that's when they ask Les what happened next. After he got cut off, everybody wants to know, because there he was on the air, the microphone goes dead. What happened next, Les? And he tells them. And that's what I'll play for you next. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97-WOODS and make your voice heard. AM 1030, K2 Radio.
Wyoming. All right, so part two, if you're just joining me, of the WKRP turkey drop. Part one, Les Nessman is at the grocery store, and the turkeys are dropped out of the helicopter and hit the ground and cars like sacks of wet cement, as he puts it. All right, but then, during the mayhem that's caused by that, Les's microphone goes out. So after they return from a commercial break, like we just did, here we are in the lobby of WKRP. The boss comes in and goes right to his office. It was his idea. He was in the helicopter tossing the turkeys out. Then Les Nessman walks in. Les looks like he just got beaten up. And he did. But not by human beings.
Les, are you okay? I don't know. A man and his two children tried to kill me. After the turkeys hit the pavement, the crowd kind of scattered, but some of them tried to attack me. I had to jam myself into a phone booth. Then Mr. Carlson had the helicopter land in the middle of the parking lot. I guess he thought he could save the day by turning the rest of the turkeys loose. Gets pretty strange after that.
Oh, it gets strange. Yeah, right. No, Les, come on now, tell us the rest.
I really don't know how to describe it. It was like the turkeys mounted a counterattack. It was almost as if they were organized. As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
There you go. And that's the famous line that everybody repeats around Thanksgiving. God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Breaking news as we go live to a Turkey Lives Matter protest. Comes as no surprise before Thanksgiving, and many of the birds' chants included, eat more beef and pork is good for you. We'll definitely keep you in the loop as this matter evolves. Stay tuned for more info.
There's also another piece, and this is something, and I think about that. I might have done this like 15 years ago, something like that. I created this bit, and I played every single Thanksgiving many times. This is the whole idea of a mom who's making Thanksgiving dinner. And the kid has heard all sorts of woke, leftist, politically correct garbage, and so he's wondering what mom is up to. So I play the voice of the kid, which, believe it or not, when you hear this, I can do that to my voice. It hurts, but I can do the little kid's voice. And then a friend of mine up in Gillette, Wyoming, she did the voice of the mom. When you hear the turkey scream, I actually did that with a balloon. I just blew up a balloon and made that screechy noise that you'll hear.
Mommy, why is Thanksgiving your favorite holiday?
Oh, because Thanksgiving is when America comes together to show what the American spirit is all about. All across the nation, people kill animals and eat them, waving giant middle fingers at PETA.
So I don't understand. I mean, what is?
See, real Americans don't like to be told what to do by a bunch of tofu-eating hippies.
Yeah, but
So we take a goose or a pig or a big bird like this turkey, and we stuff it full of stuffing like this. Then we shove it in a hot oven like so.
But Mom, I mean, shouldn't you have killed the bird dead before you did all that?
Oh, honey. Your father and I like our meat fresh.
This special Thanksgiving holiday message was designed specifically to hack off the condescending long-haired tofu-eating hippies that try to make us meat eaters feel guilty this time of year. We hope that you enjoy the organic cardboard that you're eating this holiday. In the meantime, we're cooking our fresh kill on coal.
Now, a Thanksgiving story I have from just a couple of years ago. This time I'll be heading down to Cheyenne to have Thanksgiving with friends at a restaurant. One of my friends owns a restaurant, and so we're all going to gather there. But a lot of times, though, my deal is since all my family lives over in Florida and so on, and I've tried traveling down to see them around Thanksgiving, and getting involved in the holiday traffic isn't worth it. So one of my friends is a very good cook that lives here in Wyoming. Very good. So I make a deal. I will buy all of the food. I'll push the shopping cart through the grocery store. He can load up on whatever he wants. I'll pay for it all. Everything. But then after that, I don't want to see anything. I'm not helping. I did my part. I paid for it all. I don't even want to see any dishes. Nothing. And he's okay with that. And so is everybody we invite. We invite other single guys. And so a couple of years ago, we're all sitting around eating our Thanksgiving dinner, and we decided to put a movie on. And we put a movie on that's a cartoon it's for adults, called Sausage Party. Yeah, it takes place in a grocery store where all of the food, things that getting bought and being taken home, is basically like going to heaven until they find out what actually happens when they get to a human's house, and it's horrifying. It's hysterical. However, as funny as the movie is, it gets really wrong when everybody back at the grocery store near the end of the movie and all of the food is celebrating. Now, at this point, I got to tell you, one of my friends, his name is Jim, had got done eating a second helping, and he fell asleep. During the food celebration in the movie, basically there is a food orgy scene. Yes, orgy scene, which is hysterically funny. And that's when my friend Jim woke up, right in the middle of that scene. And he looks at the television. The hell? It was the funniest damn thing. But that's what tryptophan will do to you.
I'm a fan of tryptophan. It makes me a sleepy man. It's in turkey, it's in wine, and I'm asleep at 5:49.
That's what you'll be doing when we get into Thanksgiving, which, by the way, we're not quite done yet. There's a little bit more to go. But and some of you are looking forward to this. The rest of you, I'm warning you ahead of time. Because every year, the last thing I do before we get into the official beginning of the holiday, which, by the way, Thursday show and Friday show are repeats. So you know, because I'll be out having fun with friends. So I always have to tell the neti pot story. Now, some people go, oh, for the love of God, Glenn, would you not tell that story? This is if you really don't like the neti pot story, this is your warning. Because we're going to go into a news and information break here, play some local news, an update on your weather forecast, and then I come back with the neti pot story. Now, the neti pot story is something that happened to me and my family one Thanksgiving at the family cabin in the Carolina Mountains. Now, if you're wondering what is a neti pot, don't worry. I will explain it to you, what a neti pot is, and why this story grosses everybody out. It is a true Thanksgiving story of something that happened to me and my family, and I have to tell it on the air every single Thanksgiving. And if you've never heard this story before, I know you're really curious right now. By the time I get to the end of it, you'll be thoroughly grossed out and wondering, why the hell do I tell that story every single year? Especially when there's listeners to this program that beg me, please don't tell. Miss Mary. Miss Mary is sending me notes. Tuning out. No, I can't hear you. Yes, Miss Mary and DJ up in Gillette. Please, Glenn, don't tell the neti pot story. This is your opportunity to tune out, because what's happening now is the music is coming up behind me. We're heading into that news and information break. Local news is coming your way, an update on your weather forecast, then the neti pot story. Oh, by the way, if you're traveling on I-80 from Cheyenne westward, east or west lane, doesn't matter, really slick. If you're on the western side of the state, the entire western side of the state, north to south, very slick. If you're on I-25 anywhere up in that area, you should have pretty good traveling today, road-wise. But you'll hear more about that in the weather forecast with Don Day. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
News and weather together at the top and bottom of every hour. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
9:36 the times. Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, now if you just tuned in, I warned everybody this comes the part of the show, which every year at this time, that being the day before Thanksgiving, I tell the neti pot story, which I'm going to do at this point once again. I'm pausing because I'm giving people time to tune out, because it's a gross story, I know. And it's a true story. And it's a Thanksgiving story because it happened at Thanksgiving. All right, everybody clear? Some people say, don't tell that story, but they don't tune out. They keep listening. Other people love this story. So my family has a cabin in the Carolina Mountains. Way up left, top corner of North Carolina. Beautiful cabin, tucked 2/3 the way up the side of a mountain in an area known as Callaway Gap. It's just stunning up there. And the cabin was a family project. We built the cabin as a family. And my parents found a big old wood stove, not just a typical wood stove, a big old wood stove. Now, over the years, I've gotten really good at knowing what kind of wood to put in there and how to operate all the different vents. So if you wanted to cook something in the stove or on top, how much heat do you want? Where? Do you want me to change the heat up and temperature at any point? I can do it for you, because I know what kind of wood, when, and how to use the vents. That was my expertise. Now, my brother-in-law, Phil, is a closet gourmet chef. He's really a good cook. And he loves to get in there and do a Thanksgiving dinner. He is so good at it. And this year, we were going to have Thanksgiving dinner at the family cabin. Now, right next to the kitchen is the dining room, which has a big old picnic table with handmade chairs that were made out of the sticks and branches in the woods. My father built all of that. You imagine what a spread, the big picnic table inside with those handmade chairs made out of what was naturally in the woods. So my brother-in-law's in there cooking this fantastic Thanksgiving dinner. Dear Lord, that cabin smelled so good. And while he's working his magic with all of these great dishes in the oven, on top of the stove, I don't know if you know this with a wood stove. Right under the flame on the left side of the wood stove is the hottest point, and it gets cooler as it gets toward the right. But I can control the temperature with the vents. He just needs to tell me what he needs, and I can do it. So we're working together. And he makes one of the best Thanksgiving dinners he's ever made because it's from that wood stove. You can imagine how that's going to smell and taste. Now, before I go on, I need to explain to you what a neti pot is, because this is the neti pot story. See, sometime earlier, before the family had arrived, I was at the cabin by myself. And we don't really watch much television up there. We can barely get any channels. We don't even have a satellite TV or anything like that. But I had some television, a little bit. And somebody on some television show, like a morning, like a Today show or something like that, was demonstrating a neti pot. If you have a problem with your sinuses, anybody who might have sinus problems, allergies especially, use a neti pot. And what you do is you take this pot that kind of looks like a tea kettle-ish thing, and you fill it up with room temperature saline, water. And you will, and I did this leaning over the back porch of the cabin. You tilt your head to one side, and you take the spout, which looks like a tea spout, and you stick it up the top nostril as your head is tilted sideways, and the water will go in and fill up your sinuses and drain out the bottom nostril as your head is turned sideways. Then turn and do it the other way. You don't feel a thing because there's no nerve endings back there in your sinuses. The water just drains out. I don't have any sinus problems, but I had to try it. I'm looking at this going, that's interesting. I want to try this. And some of you may have seen or heard commercials for Navage. That's the same thing as a neti pot, but it actually electrically circulates the water with an electric pump through your nasal passages. But this is the old-fashioned kind of neti pot. Nothing mechanical here. Just pour it on through. Now, when I went to a store to go grocery shopping, I was curious about a neti pot. I got to try that. That just seems interesting. I went over to where they sell them. Unfortunately, they only had one neti pot available. The rest had been sold out. Maybe everybody had seen the same television show I did. This neti pot was this big, decorative-looking thing, which I really didn't need. I mean, it looked like some teapot, fancy teapot thing. I really didn't need all of that. I just wanted a basic little neti pot, but that's all they had, so I bought it. And I took it home and tried it. Fascinating. I was fascinated. I used it several times and noticed, wow, it really does clean out my nasal passages. Wow, that's amazing. Back to Thanksgiving dinner. With help from the family, my brother-in-law is finally done cooking everything, and I'm quieting down the stove, which was really hot. And he lays out this magnificent spread of Thanksgiving dinner. And oh, my God, he had outdone himself that year. It looked good. It smelled good. And we're all gathered around the table to have our Thanksgiving dinner. And we're all piling food onto our plates. Really high. I mean, this is so good. There's no way anybody's holding back this year. It just looks too good. It smells too good. Everybody's piling food on their plates. And I look up and notice the gravy boat going around the table as people are just pouring gravy all over their food. And I realize that's not a gravy boat. That's my neti pot. Which I understand why my brother-in-law mistaken it for a decorative gravy boat, but it's not a gravy boat. That thing has been so far up my nose so many damn times, and now they're pouring gravy through it onto all of their food. I'm sitting there going, ew, gross, oh. Ew. When it got to me, I didn't even want to do that. I just, I'm going to try it this year without gravy, and I moved it on down. If I said anything at that moment, it would have ruined everybody's Thanksgiving dinner because all of their plates were full. So I didn't say a word. I just didn't look as they all ate their food. I did the responsible thing. 2 months later, I sent everybody an email explaining what had happened. Because 2 months later, it's funny. If I had said it at the time, it would have ruined the whole entire meal. Miss Mary writes to me about the neti pot story. It's like a train wreck. I can't look away.
When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
9:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino waiting by. Frank, there are certain traditions I think that we all love. I think I fulfilled every single tradition for this radio show this morning.
Oh, yeah. Well, number one is football for Thanksgiving.
No, that's you. That's not me. No. Let me see.
What do you mean?
I played.
Football is on at the top of the list.
For you. For me, first off, I had to play the Rush Limbaugh Meaning of Thanksgiving True Story thing, which everybody asked for. Then I had to play the WKRP Turkey Drop episode, which is in two parts because there's what happens at the grocery store, but then there's what happens when Les Nessman comes back to the radio station.
Yeah. And
yes. As God is my witness.
And Mr. Carlson has got his collar all like he was in like a an auto accident or something.
Then I have to tell everybody, even though people beg me not to, I have to tell everybody my neti pot story, which is a Thanksgiving story that grosses everybody out, but it's an absolutely true story. Plus, there's other false bits that I play and so on. So, in other words, there was actually very little news and information today, Frank.
You know what? And there really doesn't need to be.
No.
I mean, the only news for like the Thanksgiving thing is that, hey, is everybody's families okay?
Yeah.
Can you get from point A to point
B? That's about it. Yeah. What's the weather?
You know, can you actually get along for more than a day?
No, not at all.
You know. You just got to try.
That's about. Oh wait, I do have one story though that I didn't get to, but just briefly here. It seems that and not my words. This is the title of the article. It's very healthy. It turns out after you've eaten a big meal to go for a fart walk.
Right. Yeah. That's polite.
Yes, that is. Well, it's also healthy.
Yeah.
It's good for your digestion. So, for people who say, well, I'm done eating, I'm going to go for a walk, there's a couple of reasons to go for the walk. It is good for your digestion. It's good to get everything moving through. It helps things move through your system.
Yeah.
And also, you are not annoying everybody at home because you're making loud noises from the other end while everybody's trying to watch a football game.
Well, yeah. Men's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowboys did post a really nice win yesterday in Cancun, Mexico. They rallied from 16 points down to beat Tulane 64-63. Pokes went ahead for good as Toko Tainamo hit a three from the corner with 9 seconds to go. The Cowboys did this shooting less than 40% from the floor and 5 of 22 from the free throw line. Obi Eggman led the way with 18 points for UW, so they've won 5 out of 6 this year. They'll play Loyola Marymount tonight at 6:30 tonight at that Cancun tournament. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team in a tournament in Puerto Rico this week. They're going to meet Drake University tomorrow at 11:30. Cowgirls are 2-3 on the year and beat Colorado Christian their last time out. Then on Friday, the Cowgirls will play Norfolk State in Virginia on Saturday. JUCO basketball, Casper College will host the annual T-Bird Thanksgiving Classic Friday and Saturday. On Friday at the Erickson Gym, the T-Bird ladies will take on North Idaho at 5 p.m. They come in at 4-4 after a win over Miles City, Montana the last time out. T-Bird men on Friday will take on Lake Region State at 7 p.m. and the Birds are 7-2 after a 139-106 victory over Miles City. On Saturday, the Casper College ladies will take on Lake Region at 4 and the men will meet in McCook, Nebraska at 6. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys will end their forgettable season with a road game at Washington State on Saturday afternoon in Pullman. Folks are 2-9 after a narrow loss to Boise State, which was a good effort, but the result was the same. Washington State is 8-3 and the Cougars are favored by 17. Cowboys are playing for pride and let's hope they just don't mail the game in. They play with every ounce of energy they can possibly muster. That's a 4:30 start from the Palouse. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. National Football League, 3 games tomorrow on Thanksgiving. First game at 10:30. We have 10-1 Detroit. Yes, Detroit is 10-1, beating 4-7 Chicago. The middle game at 2:30. A pillow fight is the New York Giants at 2-9 will play Dallas, who comes in at 4-7, and the late game at 6:20 has Green Bay at 8-3 taking on Miami, who's 5-6. The Denver Broncos, by the way, will play host to Cleveland on Monday night, and the Broncos are 7-5, and that's in sports. For now.
So here's the rules for Frank for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
You can sit next to Frank and talk football. You can talk about how good the food is.
Yes.
Okay. Other than that, Frank doesn't want to hear it.
Yes.
That's basically it there. And if you are getting up to go back for seconds, it is polite to ask Frank if he wants another slice of that too.
Yeah. You know what? I still like to go outside and throw the football around.
Oh, really? Well, that's during during like when they have one of those dumb halftime shows or pregame shows. Yeah. That's when you do that, right? That's break time?
You grab all the kids, you go in the street, and you play a quick 6-on-6 football game.
Right. And then when you come back in, you lock the door forgetting that you left the kids outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they want some food too.
Or that annoying relative that wouldn't shut up the entire time.
You know why? Because I sit at the kids' table.
Oh, yeah. They still have you at the card table?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Okay, I understand. I completely do. Hey, Frank, have a great. By the way, did you get any of that coffee cake?
Yes, I did. It was fantastic.
Go get more.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want any leftovers.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, you too. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. Got to roll into some news after that. You guys have a great Thanksgiving. I'll be back live on Monday. It's Wake Up Wyoming.